Welcome to the Let's Get Vulnerable podcast. It's your host, Dr. Morgan, and today's episode is really from my heart to you. And this has just been something that's been coming up for me a lot lately, and I feel like people need to be reminded of this. The topic we're going to get into is all about creating emotional safety and why we have to create emotional safety within ourselves first so that we can welcome it in a relationship. This is so near and dear to my heart because I have been in relationships where there was no emotional safety. Maybe you have too. If you've ever been in a relationship where you feel like you're walking on eggshells, you can't be yourself, where you don't want to share the difficult things that are going on in your life, and you feel like you have to handle things on your own and you have to put on a happy face, or a relationship where honestly you're so busy taking care of the other person and their emotional needs that you don't feel that there are space for yours. If you've ever been in that kind of relationship, you know how exhausting it is and how you can maintain that for a period of time, maybe 6 months, maybe even 10 years. Some of us are really good at maintaining putting other people before us, right? Like you can maintain it for a period of time, but ultimately it doesn't last. If we do not have emotional safety in our relationships, we cannot be our true selves and we can't create relationships that last. Relationships where we can grow and change and go through things that humans go through. I'm so done with toxic positivity. There are always things we're going to go through. And honestly, it's about not that you're going to have a perfect life. Like a perfect life does not exist. I don't know how many times I have to say that. It does not exist, but it's all about how you respond. How do you respond when your mental health is taking a dip, when you're grieving, when you lose a loved one or a pet unexpectedly, when you go through a friendship breakup, when you are struggling in your career? It's like, how do you respond? Because we are never going to be without struggles, but we can decide how we respond to the struggles. For example, this month, June, I have had a lot coming up for me emotionally. Oh, just even mentioning it, I get emotional. It's Pride Month, and it's yeah, it was my friend Anthony who passed away, one of my best friends, clinical psychologist. Um, Trigger warning here, but he died by suicide in 2020. And I have a whole episode where I talk about this, but his birthday was June 2nd. And I always think that it's important to realize that the body holds on to anniversaries. I'm sure some of you have experienced this where it's like certain times of the year, things just hit you differently. And in June, I am like so hit with his loss because every June during our friendship, we would celebrate his birthday, June 2nd, and we would be celebrating Pride events together. And we would go to as many events as we could. And we had all these parties. And June was always this month that I looked forward to. And this year, I don't have that. And it's really sinking in. I think sometimes with grief, we go, okay, for me, at least for the first couple of years, I was really just kind of numbing his loss and in denial. And now that I'm further along in my grief, I actually have more tears and I'm actually more sad because I'm actually feeling into the absence of my friend. And this was a time of year that I so loved spending with him, and he's no longer here. And I can tell you this. Why am I bringing this up? I'm bringing this up because I have become emotionally available to myself, and I can realize when I'm feeling these emotions. Like the other day, I was driving to my workout class at 5:30 in the morning, and I could just tell I was just grieving. And my friend loved music. Anthony loved music. He had probably every single album ever released, and he had it all completely organized. He had all these playlists. He and I really shared the love for music. We both were like, yeah, we definitely would have been DJs if we weren't psychologists. We both love music so much. And anyways, I'm driving to the gym and it's 5:30 in the morning, and I've been listening to this new artist, Chapel Roan, and she's basically from the LGBTQ community, and I absolutely love her music. So it's 5:30 a.m. and I'm blasting her new album on the way to the gym, and I'm just sobbing. And I know that it's this it's this grief and simultaneous celebration of who Anthony was and the fun that we had together, and cherishing all those positive memories, but allowing myself to cry and say, I really would have liked to have sent this album to my friend Anthony, but he's not here. And just allowing that to be my reality. I don't know why I'm getting so emotional. But this is part of what I'm talking about, is creating emotional safety, allowing ourselves to cry, allowing ourselves to feel our feelings. And this June, I have been completely reminded of how important it is to be there for myself emotionally, to let myself cry on the way to the gym, and to simultaneously, this is part of what I want to get into today, is to have a partner who can be there, a partner who, because of your emotional connection to yourself and the emotional safety that you've created within yourself, that you can have a partner who can also help you with that, who can show up and be an emotionally safe place for you as well. Because let me tell you, there is nothing more heartbreaking than working on healing your emotional safety with yourself and starting to validate your emotions and create space for them. But then if you go to a partner and you are brave enough to express yourself, and then it gets shut down, or it gets invalidated, or it just gets completely ignored, the pain of that, of it teaching you, okay, it's better to not feel. It's better to just go into your shell, or it's better to put your walls up, right? We want partners who reinforce the personal growth that we are doing. If you are brave enough to cry, if you're brave enough to feel the feelings, if you're brave enough to process the things from your childhood, and you're learning how to do that yourself, you want a partner that when you go to them, they are also a safe place. They're also a safe place. You deserve someone where you can show up and express what's on your heart, and they validate it, they make space for it, they prioritize hearing you, and you feel supported. This month, I've been going through a lot. As you all know, I'm being really vulnerable. I'm living up to the name of the podcast. Okay, let's get vulnerable. You are getting like the real. This is what's going on in my life. Okay, I have been grieving, and I've been birthing a new course into the world. And let me tell you, there is so much that has gone into that. I mean, this is like, I don't even know. You only know if you've done it, but just the mental energy of birthing a new creation into the world and launching it and trying to make it the best thing ever. I mean, I have poured my heart and soul and tears and so much of my time into the launch of Breakup Academy. And it's really, really good. If you haven't heard about it yet, it's my new course. And I have been really, really pouring into it. And I can tell you that if I did not have a partner who was supportive, this last month would have looked like hell. Like the last 30 days would have been miserable because I would have been emotionally dysregulated and struggling with all the things. And I would have been doing my best to keep myself together. And then I would have had a partner who maybe didn't get it, wasn't supportive, wasn't tuned into me. And it just would have made everything worse. And honestly, between the grieving and the launch of this course and all the things going on in my life, if our relationship was not strong, I don't think we would have made it through this period of my life. But we are happily engaged, stronger than ever. I had a breakdown this morning and my partner was so there for me, like made me a smoothie and did all the things. And I just am like, this is what true partnership is. And I'm there for him. I'm there for him as well, of being able to be the one to help him emotionally regulate and to help him have the support and have the security, that secure base that allows him to go out into the world and do what he wants to do. He's becoming a full-time fly fishing guide. He's going after his dream and I'm able to support him in that. And I just think about how there's so much that goes on in our lives, whether it's our professional things that we're doing, such as me launching this course, or my fiance going full in on his career. And there's all the things that come up with our family lives and our friend lives and just being part of society and all the things going on in the world that if you don't have secure partnership as your base, all of those things are so much harder. I can remember going through licensure when I was becoming licensed as a clinical psychologist. That was such a terrible time in my life. Anybody who's gone through it knows. I mean, it was so challenging. You take a over 500 question timed in-person exam in order to qualify to be licensed. Most people don't pass the first time. I was lucky I did pass on the first time. But anyways, I was going through that in my career and guess what? I did not have an emotionally safe relationship. And I can tell you that my licensure process was such utter hell, partly because I did not have an emotionally safe relationship. It would have been better to not be in a relationship at all than to be in the kind of relationship that made me feel bad about myself, made me feel guilty, made me feel like my feelings weren't valid, caused me to question my worthiness, right? We can't be in relationships that hurt us because it takes away from our gifts. It takes away from what we're meant to do in the world. It can even horribly damage our mental health and well being. I want you to know that you just deserve the kind of relationship that creates a secure, emotionally a safe base in your life that adds value, that brings you joy and peace and happiness. You deserve that kind of relationship. You really do. And I think that we're realizing this as a society, at least from some of the things I've looked at. There was a recent poll from Bumble where they said 60% of all people on Bumble that they were able to poll would agree to talking about their mental health on a first date. And to me, I think that's huge, right? Of being able to focus on emotional safety, on intimacy that is about knowing each other, intimacy around hey, do I know like what your needs are? Do I know what kind of person you are? Do I know what kind of partnership you're looking for? Like developing real, true, authentic intimacy. I do think that there's a trend in dating where more and more people are open to that because they're realizing that these kinds of relationships that are shallow, that do not allow for authentic expression, those kinds of relationships are not lasting. Those people are lasting a couple of years in a marriage, right? I think we see this all the time with reality TV, where we see these people who, I mean, I'm not going to name names, but it's like people where they have this facade of a relationship and they've created this connection, but somewhere along the way, maybe at one point they had this, but somewhere along the way, they lose the raw, intimate connection of what are each other feeling? What's going on in your heart? Not what are you achieving? What are you doing? What's coming up for you emotionally, right? If we can't talk about that with our partners, we don't have a healthy relationship. We don't have a relationship that's going to last. We don't. So, one of the things I would encourage you to think about is if you're going to have emotional safety in your relationship, you have to have emotional safety with yourself first. And a lot of us don't have this. I think about my friend Anthony, who passed away, who was an incredible psychologist, worked at Stanford. He was an OCD expert. One of the things about Anthony is everyone loved him. He was very, very good at what he did. And he put other people's needs before his own. And it makes me really sad to think about this. One of the things that made him such an incredible psychologist was actually really harmful to him. He would take on way too many clients, and I did that in the past as well. But he was overworking and constantly prioritizing other people's needs above his own. He was so incredibly selfless that it became rare for him to connect to himself. And I think that's one of the things that can really impact our mental health. And I will always talk about this because I know how important it is that you have to make the space to connect to your inner knowing, to what is going on inside of your heart, inside of your brain, what's really going on with you, right? We have to make the space. If we don't intentionally make the space, it'll get taken up by everything else, by your career, by Netflix, by your Amazon shopping, by your friends, by your fitness routine, even. You have to make the space to intentionally connect to your inner experience. You have to prioritize it. Um, Another thing that I would think about when we're creating emotional safety in our relationships is we have to get good at naming our emotional experiences and learning how to communicate them. This was something that took me a while, but learning how to say, if I'm in, for example, if I'm having a conversation with my partner and I'm feeling frustrated and maybe I'm like, ooh, I want to take it out. I want to take it out on him. But instead I go, wow, I'm noticing that I'm feeling really overwhelmed. I have too much on my plate. I'm feeling unsupported. The story I'm telling myself is blank, 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 right? Like we have to get good at how do I communicate in a way that my partner can hear me? I always think about the communication sandwich, right? It's like you have to communicate in a way where your partner wants to eat the sandwich. And this is a whole other tangent I could go into on when we're giving feedback. We want to do the sandwich. We want to say one positive thing, a feedback thing, and then another positive thing, right? So it really is an actual sandwich. But even just if I'm expressing my emotions, remember, if I want my partner to take this in, if I want my communication to be a tasty little sandwich, I have to think about what is the best way for my partner to hear me. And I can tell you this, the best way to be heard is when you take ownership of your emotional experience. So you're using I statements. You're saying the story I'm telling myself is this. Your emotional experience is valid. It cannot be invalidated, right? If somebody is invalidating it, if they're saying, oh, that's stupid or you're overreacting, then you're looking at some emotional abuse behaviors, gaslighting, potentially narcissism, right? So, knowing that your power in communication is connected to you being able to take ownership of your emotional expression and to express it well in a way that can be received. So, those were a couple of things, right? Number one, how do you build that relationship with yourself and create emotional safety within yourself where you're connected to you and you learn how to self-soothe, right? So that's number one. And then number two, learning how to express your emotions is so important. Number three, a huge piece of creating emotional safety in your relationship, I would encourage you to get really good at repair, because there will be times where we hurt each other's feelings, where things come up and they don't come out right. And we have to get good at repair and how to repair quickly. So, not to stay in our anger, resentment, our hurt place, but to actually reach for one another and learn how to repair. This is one of my favorite things. And I'm sure one day I'll have way more content on couples and how to navigate this, because it is just so life-changing when you can get repair right. But a lot of it relates to point number two, which is learning how to communicate our emotional experiences in a really healthy way where our partner can actually hear them. That helps us so much in repair. And then another big piece about repair is just knowing what you need in order to feel that there's repair, and expressing what you need and also being curious what your partner needs and being willing to have those conversations. So those are some really important tips and things to think about when creating emotional safety. But I just want you to realize, once again, you don't deserve to be in surface level relationships. And I can tell you this, when we're showing up with insecure attachment styles, so whether it's anxious attachment or avoidant attachment, we can find ourselves in those relationships where we're walking on eggshells, where we can't really be ourselves. We can't be our authentic selves. We can't really express what's on our hearts. And the reason is that when you're in a insecure attachment dynamic relationship, you have sabotaged the emotional safety. You can't create emotional safety without secure attachment. So, this is just a really important thing for you to think about. Like I said, this was the message on my heart to you today, and I didn't expect to get so emotional, but I think it's important to be an example of vulnerability and for you all to know that I'm human, that I figure things out as I'm going. And just like you, I have to work on how do I show up and continue to be securely attached and create a securely attached relationship. And there's so much that I'm grateful for the longer I'm in this relationship with my fiance, that I'm realizing, wow, if I had gone through something like this in one of my past relationships, I know how horrible it would have been and how the pain I was going through would have just been multiplied by my partner's inability to respond. So, anyways, there's just so much gratitude that I have now as I'm going through things. And I want to share that with you all because I want you to know what's possible. I want you to know that you can have a partner who shows up for you, who's by your side, no matter what you're going through. And this month, I'm actually doing something really special. I'm doing the 444 abundance offer for the Empowered Secure Love program. I have a thing for fours. Some of you know this. My clients know this. I don't know why I always see fours everywhere. People see twos, they see ones. I see fours everywhere. And the thing about seeing the number four is it's about knowing the path that you're taking, having clarity and direction and purpose. And I love that. I love that when we can have that clarity and direction, that we can move forward with confidence. And for me, we've had over 4 years of the Empowered Secure Love program that blows my mind. Over 4 years. We've had over 444 podcast episodes. Absolutely insane. And just in abundance and in gratitude, I'm giving you this really special offer on the program right now where when you enroll, you get 4 bonuses. You get the extra month. So you get a whole extra month in the program. You get the Become the One bundle. You get our Boundaries Are Hot hat, which is an absolute favorite. People love the hat. And then you get the Boundaries audio course, which is a full-on audio course on how do you become the version of you who can set and maintain boundaries. And you get $400 off the program. So this is a limited time offer, and this is just to show my gratitude and abundance for where I am on this mission of serving you and helping people, and how I'm just so grateful for this community. So this will make this program really, really accessible for you. If you've been on the fence, this is the time. We're here. We're ready to help you, myself and the incredible coaches inside the program. We're ready to help you become secure so you can attract your emotionally available partner who can co-create secure attachment with you so that you don't have to waste your time on the wrong people anymore. You deserve to create that relationship you've always wanted, and it's available to you. So I can't wait to see you inside the program. Just use the link in the show notes to apply. It's a super simple process. And of course, you all know I love and appreciate you so much. I adore this community. I can't believe over 5 million downloads, and we are in the top 1% of podcasts in the world. Like, what? What? And I just saw the other day it was like the top 50 podcasts for personal development, or no, it was for self-improvement. And I'm just so grateful. I love that you love this show, and I seriously show up every single week because I know that this is helping you. And I'm just grateful to be able to help and give back and to be in service to you. That's really my life's calling. Fun fact, you can now go on my website. I have a new website, but it's drmorgancoaching.com, and you can hit the podcast page. On the podcast page, you can now submit an audio. So you can go and submit a question via audio. So instead of like sending me in a written question or DMing me, you can submit an audio. And what I'm going to try to do is incorporate those into the podcast. So feel free, you can share your name or you can be anonymous, but I want to hear from you. Go to the podcast. I believe it's towards the bottom of the page, and you could submit a question via voice recording. I recommend doing it on your phone. I had way better success on my phone than on a desktop, but go do it. drmorgancoaching.com podcast page. Submit your question via audio. I can't wait to hear your questions. And of course, as always, I'm sending you so much love, and I'm wishing you high self-worth and great relationships. I'll talk to you soon.